Hi there, Release Fire here, so I'm going to take you through how to beat Enenra, the fire boss, at the end of the Beast of Smoke and Flame here in Nioh 2. He's an absolute terror, and I'm not kidding you when I say I had to fight him a hell of a lot of times before I worked out exactly how to take him down. Hopefully the video is going to help you out. If it does, drop me a like below. But starting out with his crazy kind of whirlwind move, you just need to run around those and then run away from him when he kind of transfers into his teleportation, and then just kind of like run in the opposite direction. And believe me when I say, your run is going to be your biggest ally in this entire fight. Essentially, you want to sprint backwards away from most of its attacks, but then be ready to get in there to do some damage. And there's one move in particular that comes when it's transitioned into the shift phase, which I'll take you through in a little bit, but mostly you're just trying to stay away from all of its attacks. But you can see you can't stay away from everything, or at least that's what it feels like in the very beginning portions of this fight. One tip that you definitely need to do if you're not already is to cycle through your elixirs anytime that you kind of take any kind of significant damage, and then what you're trying to do is get the Enenra to knock down these pillars here. As you can see I'm doing with a burst counter perfectly timed when it does its attack, when it does its turning into a whirlwind attack. Now I'm going to show you one a little bit later on where it looked like I thought I'd got a perfect placement of this burst counter, but I was just a fraction of a second out. And that's just an example of how you can lose lots and lots of health in this boss battle just by even just like getting things just slightly wrong. So this is by no means an easy fight or whatsoever. However, this is the move that I struggled with the most. It's the move where it's doing lots of quick attacks in succession, and it kind of feels like there's no way to get away from it. You roll backwards and you're still getting hit. However, going back to what I was saying earlier in the video, is all about running in the opposite direction to its attack, but you need to do that before it actually reappears after it does its transition. So you can kind of see me doing that a little bit there, but there's lots more examples later on in the video. Make sure you use your yokai moves when its key is in red and looks like it's about to get to the end of its bar and you can down it, and then you obviously want to use a grapple with triangle to be able to deal some huge damage. And by this stage you should have enough to be able to do the yokai shift yourself and then just use the quick attack on Blitz until it starts to run out, and then you need to back away because it's a potential that he can get in some big hits while you're just transitioning back to normal state. And then you're back to kind of just avoiding its attacks and getting in your damage. Now you can see by this stage I'd entirely run out of elixirs and I still had around about half of its health to go. So the things that made me get through this is essentially running backwards as soon as it starts to run towards me, hitting it with the burst counters with perfect timing, which you can see me doing not too long ago. You can see here I'm just running backwards to get out of the way of its attacks, and then running to get out of the way of those, and then anytime I see any kind of redness, getting ready with the burst counters, and essentially just eventually I managed to chip away at enough of its health. The other things that really come in handy are keeping an eye on its key gauge and using yokai moves whenever I think it's a little bit low. Again, backing off and running out of the way, and then just trying to get in as much damage when I've got an opportunity. And then eventually, because you've got its key down, you should be able to do a huge chunk of damage with yet another grapple move, and that takes it very close to being finished. However, you should definitely be cagey around doing those grapple moves and get ready to move backwards, which I didn't do at that stage, and that was my only hit after around about 50% of its health had gone. But essentially you need to back away from that before it does that whirlwind get back up move, and then you just back into running through the phases. Now I used a water magic to infuse my sword, but you can see with the damage that I do afterwards, it doesn't change a great deal, but it just made me feel like I was doing a little bit. So if you've got any Omnio, then definitely put that in play, and then you're just back to hitting up the burst counters, getting out of the way of the bombs, and then using your yokai moves to try to bring it down to the end. And then it just kind of needed one last little phase, get out of the way of its hits, being a little bit cautious, and then when it's in the yokai realm, again, just try to get in your damage where you can. And that was enough to finish the Enenra fire boss in the mission, the Beast of Smoke and Flame in Nioh 2. Hopefully the video helps you out. If it does, drop me a like below. You can also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already with the links on the left hand side, and check out the rest of my guide to Nioh 2 with the links on the right hand side. Leave any comments below. Let me know how you get on against Enenra, and I will catch you next time.